Why don't you grab yourselves a seat? It's good to be here this morning. My name's Brendan, part of the team here. And we are in week 2 of our Sermon on the Mount series. Can I encourage you over these next however many weeks we're doing this series for? If you're a note taker, continue to take notes. If you are not a note taker, try. Because it's going to be really helpful. As we look over these next however many weeks of a very specific portion of Scripture, ideas are going to come up again and again and again. And it's helpful that if you've written them down, you can look back and go, we talked about this 4 weeks ago. What was that again? And we've got something. So if you're a note taker, continue taking notes. Good on you. If you're not a note taker and you've got your phone on you, it has an app and you can open the notes up and you can jot some things down and it's going to be helpful for you. It's good to be here. It's good to be together. So let's read Matthew together. Matthew chapter 5. We're looking at verses 13 to 16 today. As I'm sure we're going to say for most of the weeks with this series, you've read these before, I'm sure. Some of the most well-known scriptures in the Bible, some of the most spoken of. So as you get that open, it's up on the screen if you need it. But it says this: "You are the salt of the earth. But if salt has lost its taste, how can saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything, but it is thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hid. People do not light a lamp and put it under a bushel basket. Rather, they put it on the lampstand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven." So, classic idea here, salt and light, something I'm sure many of us have heard before. You are the salt of the earth and you are the light of the world. Now, to us, those two ideas make sense, and they definitely would have made sense to the original hearer, the original reader, but in potentially in a different way to the way that they make sense to us. And we are going to look at that very shortly, but first I'd like us to have a look at the word you, because you are the salt of the earth, you are the light of the world. And intentionally or unintentionally, we engage with the word you in 2026 very differently to the way that most of history engaged with the word you. Probably because of sort of the post-enlightenment individualistic nature of our world. When we hear you, we think me. We think the individual. So when I hear you, I think Brendan. Brendan is being spoken to here, and I am the one that needs to take something from this. And in some cases that's useful, but to be honest, as you engage with the New Testament, very rarely does you mean you as an individual. As you engage with the New Testament writings, most of it is you are all. And this word you here is hymos. I'm not great at pronouncing Greek words, but it is a second person plural. Look at me go. I don't do well with English, but a second person plural. So less of you and more like all of you, or you are all. So the collective. So if ABBA was singing Dancing Queen, it would be you are all dancing queens. It wouldn't be you are the dancing queen. If you used you today, hoping that people would get it, it could have a different outcome. So I'm staring at there's a group of people, want to invite them to a party, but I'm staring down one of them. And I say, you were invited to my party. Now there's a whole bunch of people that are invited, but I'm making eye contact with one. Chances are one person turns up. Because we live in a culture and a society that you is me, not the collective. You have to say, you are all. Everybody, all of us. We kind of have to say that. Now, the trend, it's expensive to re-release Bibles, right? You've got to print a lot of pages. So my encouragement to you, as you read you in the New Testament, think about it. What could this you mean? As Paul's writing, does Paul mean you as in the person reading this in their own room at their own time? Or was this letter written to a church so the you means all of you? This will be fun. We'll get to engage with this a little bit in a few weeks when we look at prayer. Because the second person singular is Sai. And in Matthew 6, when we're talking about prayer, Jesus actually says, you, as you go to your room and pray, as you, the individual, go to your room and pray, you should do this. So there's you used 2 different ways. So you, individual, everyone should pray like this. So it's kind of fun. It's a little bit confusing, but if in doubt, just go for you are all. because we are a community of believers, and really the New Testament is written mostly and largely in that context. So think of it more like you are the salt, you are all salt of the earth. You are all the light of the world. And for us as post-Easter, as post-cross Christians, the call is very specific to us as believers in the death and resurrection. You are all salt of the earth, you are all light of the world. And it's important to understand the difference here. You might be thinking, well, why can't it just be you for me? Why can't I just read this as, Brendan, you are the salt of the earth and the light of the world? Well, I think it's important because it can become a bit of a stumbling block when we start putting you where it's not meant to be. We can start reading into passages, behaviors that are never meant to be for an individual. And I think this is a great example of that, because if you read, you are the salt of the earth, and if you're not kind of doing your job, you can lose your saltiness, you can stop being effective. And how do you get your saltiness back? When we read that individually, this becomes a very behavioral message, right? Do the things to stay salty, don't do the things, lose your salt, and you can't get it back. So that's why it's important that we read these things in the right context. And ironically, Jesus is actually speaking against that idea in these verses. This whole Sermon on the Mount is against the behavioral ideas, right? We get this picture of Jesus sitting on a mountain, which is probably more like a hill, because the Jewish audience is wanting to see a Moses-like figure. Here is the new Moses-like figure coming to bring the law, and he's coming to fill it and teach it in a different way. So the behavior, do this, do that stuff, is no longer super relevant. Now it's a communal idea of how to be the people of God ushering in the kingdom. So we need to have this idea of you in our minds as we get into salt and light. And Jesus plays on two ideas here, right? He plays on salt and he plays on light. So salt, pretty straightforward. I think when we think of salt, you are the salt of the earth. We think of that in a general kind of way. And when we think of light of the world, maybe we think of light of the world generally as well. For the original readers, for the original audience, for the hearers, it is far more theological. The idea of light here is a far more theological idea. So one, as a very practical thing, you are salt, and theologically, this is what you are as well. And we'll look into that, but first let's start with salt, because they complement each other. Salt is important. It always has been, right? Salt has been important throughout history. We now have refrigerators. We have medicine. We have garlic and onion powder. So salt is a bit less relevant for us in Perth. And I realize as I say that, and say historically, for a large portion of the world today in 2026, salt is still hugely important because they don't have refrigerators. They don't have ease of medicine. They don't have garlic and onion powder. So salt is this really valuable commodity that is also very easy to get hold of. So salt here and throughout time has been valuable, but not valuable like gold or silver. Gold or silver is valuable because it's scarce and it's worth something and it's precious. Salt is valuable because it's useful all the time. And I think there's a really cool picture here of what Jesus calls us, right? You are salt of the earth. You are really valuable, but you're also really common. And I think that's an encouragement for us. All of you are of value. In your commonness, you are still incredibly valuable. And I think that's something that we can take into our lives and know. That God, the creator of heaven and earth, sees you as common and super valuable, sees us all as valuable. The idea of salt here is kind of giving us an idea of what it did, right? Because when salt was used correctly, salt made things better, okay? We can see that. Salt's usefulness doesn't come from being salt on its own. So salt on its own can actually just be thrown aside and trampled underfoot, because salt on its own isn't super useful. Salt's usefulness comes from making something better. Its usefulness is in its being used. So if you had meat, salting it would preserve it. Before refrigeration, salt is what kept meat good. I don't know how, but I imagine it had biltong kind of has a similar kind of idea, right? I eat biltong weeks after it was made, and I don't die. So I assume salt plays some kind of preserving thing in that. Someone can tell me afterwards. Salt was used medically, right? It was useful because it would clean wounds, but also it would dry it out. It would dry out the wound so that the healing process could begin. And of course, salt is used to make food taste better. I made a spaghetti bolognese the other night. I'm pretty proud of it. I made it from scratch. The sauce, chucked some little small tomatoes in, cooked them up, added some oil, added heaps of garlic. And I cooked it up, and it was actually really yummy. But too much salt, it's awful, and it's unredeemable. You can't, I can't. Maybe if you've got a Michelin star, you can save it. But I can't save something that has way too much salt in it. If I don't put enough salt in it, well, what's the point? You can't taste it. So there's this really cool idea here that Jesus is playing with being salt and being useful. Salt's usefulness doesn't just come from being used, but being used in the right amount. You are the salt of the earth, but if salt has lost its taste, how can its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything, but is thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are all salt of the earth. So again, if we engage with this here individually, that sounds really behavioral based, right? You are the salt of the earth, but if you have lost your taste, if you have lost your usefulness, how can you be restored? You are no longer good for anything, but you're thrown out and trampled underfoot. That sounds incredibly harsh and incredibly incorrect. But when we look at that as an individual, Brendan, when you lose it, you can't get it back. This is a pretty aggressive verse. The beauty of reading this in its actual context of community is suddenly, if one person's struggling, our saltiness isn't lost. There's 10, 20, 50, 100 of us to work together to make sure that we are still being salt to the world. This is not a passage that condemns or challenges us about individual usefulness. Uselessness, that's harsh. It calls us to be community. That's what this passage is doing. It's calling us to be a community of God doing good stuff. In the right amount, being the right amount of salt to people. What does this look like? Well, food. Who always undersalt stuff? Do people undersalt stuff? Okay, you guys get it. I don't get salt. Ah, yes, someone else. I undersalt stuff. And then I just kind of go, well, maybe I can just add more. Who oversalts stuff? Who oversalts stuff to the point, like you just like salt, right? Who's ever oversalted something to the point where even as much as you like salt, you didn't like the food? Right, we've been there. So this is this tension that Jesus is swimming in here when he's talking about being salt of the earth. Being kingdom-minded in a community, in a culture. Jesus is saying, be salt in the culture you are in. Don't try and change it. Don't try and pull it in a direction you want it to go in. Don't try and make something totally different or totally new. Make earth better. That is our call as kingdom people, to make earth better. Make sports better. Make music better. Make accounting better. Make school better. Make driving on the freeway better for everyone who's driving past you. Make earth better. Make culture better. Make community better. Do what salt is meant to do. The right amount of it makes things better. When salt is barely there, it is rubbish. And it dissolves into culture. When salt is barely there, it dissolves into the culture it is in. When salt is too strong and overbearing, that culture doesn't want it. It's untasty. It's not very good. It's unenjoyable. I think this is a challenging metaphor for us, and I loved the other week when Chad Harding was here. For those who remember, he's a sports chaplain. I think that is such an incredible picture of what being salt to a community and to a culture is. He isn't saying, hey, footy players, come over here to me. I'm going to be in this place over here 3 days a week. Come over and see me. He's actually going into a culture and making it better. Him being there makes it better. makes it safer, makes it more encouraging. That's salt, culturally relevant metaphor to the reader and to us. Be the right amount of salt. And then Jesus brings up this idea of being light. You are the light of the world. The idea of light here, for us, this might not ring bells immediately, but for the Jewish audience, for the Jewish reader, immediately they are thinking Isaiah. They're thinking Isaiah 42:6, where it talks about being a light to the Gentiles. I will be a light to the Gentiles. That's what God says. Isaiah 49:6, I'll also make you a light for the Gentiles. They're thinking Isaiah 2, they're thinking Micah 4, the Lord's temple will be established on the highest mountain and all nations will stream to it. So for the original hearer, for the original audience, for the original reader, they are hearing this idea of salt. Be salt of the earth. Be there, be the right amount of salt, and be light to the world. So they're thinking, this is how I do it, and the outcome is, I'm to be a light to the Gentile, and like God is set on the mountain so people will stream to him, so I can usher that in as well. These scriptures would have been front and center for the audience that was engaging, whether sitting down or whether reading years later. Be the salt of the earth, add to society, add to culture, make it better. And we see so many stories throughout history of the church doing that. And large points of revival throughout history have come through the church making society better, making culture better, making education better, making it easier for the people who are forgotten about to live, looking after those who have been forgotten about. There's so many stories as we look through history of God's people making culture better in his name. Don't dissolve into the culture and say, oh, it's okay, that's cool, we can do all of that. And also, don't be too aggressive and try and pull it in the direction you want it to go and leave a bad taste. And if you do this, if you add to society, if you add to culture, you'll make it better, and you will be a light to the world. People will see something and say, wow, I want that. Now, we don't use the word Gentile anymore, rightfully so, because we're in a different culture and a different time. But that idea of a light to those who don't know Jesus, that's the language we would use in our day and age. Being a light to the people who don't know Jesus. And I love the idea of you are a city on a hill. Really reinforces that you are all idea, right? You are all the light of the world, and you are a city on a hill. You're not alone. Now the tension here, I like to overthink a metaphor to the nth degree, and I'm sure some of you do too. And we're thinking, well, hang on a minute, how do I do that? Right? How do I be light? How do I be salt at work? How do I be light and salt at sport, at school, at university, wherever it is? Like on cricket, if we're a community, do you all come with me on a Tuesday and a Thursday to cricket training, right? And I'll just train, but like 60 of you come with me so we can be salt in that community, because you are all salt of the earth. So we'll all go Tuesday, we'll meet at Monash Reserve, I'll bowl, and you guys just stand around. Does that sound like the thing we should be doing? I don't think that's what we're talking about. And I think this is where this idea of individuality in our culture and our context in 2026 makes community a bit harder. Because community doesn't mean doing everything all the time, all together. It means being in a community that can send and encourage and coming back to somewhere where you can continue. So to try and make sense of this, I've got some hula hoops. Yeah, you all saw these hula hoops earlier, and you're like, what is going on with the hula hoops? All right, this is work. This is sport. Oh, now this is friendship groups. This is uni, school, academia, whatever we call that, TAFE, wherever we're learning. This is your hobbies. We get some room back here. This is your family, and this is insert one of the many things you do in your life. So here's these things we have in our life, and we're saying we need to be the light of the world, the salt of the earth. Jordan, can you come up? I need a helper. Can we welcome up Jordan? Now, Jordan is an incredible young man. He has all of these things in his life. Jordan, you want to be salt to all of these things. Do it. How are we going to, there's all of these here. Which ones? And what are we going to do? We're going to jump between them. What's going to happen here? Okay, so you've picked, I don't remember what that was. Sport. Was it sport? Someone remembers. No, what was it? Work. Yeah, it's not a bad choice. Okay, so Jordan's chosen to be salt at work. That's really good, right? Okay, so what happens with his friendship group? What happens with sport? What do we do? Yeah, he jumps between, there we go. He's got 1 foot in each. Now, Jordan is a very capable young man. And I reckon for like 6 months, he could run between all of these. And he could probably be salt and light to these different communities. But I think what we're going to see end up happening is he's going to be salt and light while being burnt out, while losing his saltiness, while not really enjoying this too much anymore. So an individualistic kind of idea here. Now, here's where community, here's what you or all looks like. Can I get some other people? Dylan, Joseph, Riley. Anyone else who wants to come up? Yeah, Seth, come on up, Seth. Who else wants to come up? You guys, come stand in some of these. We need to fill these all up. I need some people. We need to fill these up. Come on. Gussie, come on up, Gus. Let's see if he's going to... Oh, is he? Oh, he's not moving. That's a shame. Chloe, come on up. You can come stand in one. Gasso, Amy, come on. We need to fill these. Oh, we've only got one more. There we go. We're done. Right. Now they're all filled. So what does this look like? Now, we're kind of throwing this here because I'm believing you guys are all doing these in all these things. But here's what community looks like. Community looks like all of us stepping into a space and being salt. And where it really hits and becomes real is not that we go, oh, I've enjoyed standing in mine, but I'm looking at what Jordan's doing. I don't think he's doing a very good job. So I'm going to go jump in there and try and help out. What community looks like, what you are all salt of the earth looks like, is all of these people are trusting each other as community. As a community of believers wanting to usher in the kingdom of God, wanting to bring in all the good things that God has to offer. We don't need to be jumping from ship to ship, from hula hoop to hula hoop, from thing to thing. Seth can stand over there and he can look at Dylan and he can say, you know, I'm trusting that Dylan is engaging with his friends in a really good way. Because I know Dylan. Because I hang out with him at church. I can look at Jordan and say, I'm trusting him. Because we talk about things in life. We are a community that build each other up. Hey, how did that conversation go with sport? How was the basketball? How did that go? If we try and fill these up ourselves, it's actually really, really difficult. It's really tiring, and it's actually how we burn each other out. But when we're trusting a community, when we're saying, Dylan's over there doing this, we're saying, Joseph's there doing that, Seth's there doing that, and I'm trusting them and believing that they understand their call to be a kingdom maker and a kingdom person, salt of the earth starts to look really, really good. And in these places, it starts to really change. You guys can sit down. Can we give them a hand? It's courageous to jump up. So we're called to be community. We're called to be you are all salt of the earth. You are all light of the world. And it means doing something, right? It means being salt to the different places in your life. But it means doing it hand in hand with each other. That doesn't mean you invite them to the spaces that you go all the time, although sometimes it might actually make sense for me to say to Phil, hey, I'm going to go play cricket. Do you want to come hang out with me? We're going to go play cricket together. We got some friends. But what is key here is community trust each other. And as we are all being salt of the earth, we don't feel the need to double check and triple check and make sure that they've got everything right. We're saying you are part of the kingdom. God is calling us to something great. How can we all do that in our context? And then come back on Sunday and chat. That's what part 2 of church is about. That's what young adults is for. That's what youth is for. That's what over 55s is for. That's what Pilates will undoubtedly become a part of. Chatting while stretching will be hugely fun for people who like to stretch. But that's what those spaces are for. We want to be people who make things better. The footy club was cool, and I enjoyed playing footy. But now there's this guy there who is available to talk to me about my life and my struggles, and footy is so much better. Life is so much better. What is it about that guy that made all of that better? Because I love footy and I'd go just for that. Coffee is tasty. I like buying a coffee. What is it about buying this coffee that actually changes someone's life on the other side of the world? That's actually really cool. There's something really awesome about that makes this coffee that's already good better. And I want to find out more about these people who say this is the best thing to do. There's all kinds of different things that are going on in your lives. There's all different spaces you can be involved and are involved. And it's not my job to tell you exactly what you need to do. But I think I can say with a certain degree of certainty that we are called to be salt of the earth. We are not meant to dissolve into our friendship groups. We are not meant to dissolve into our sporting groups. We are not meant to dissolve into whatever it is. We are also not meant to be the other end when we are so aggressive that people don't want us to be there. We're called to be just the right amount of salt to make things better.